Hey, teachers, sped teachers, math specialists, resource teachers, administrators, you're going to want to take a minute and listen to this because I think what I'm going to share with you is going to be very impactful when you are trying to teach your struggling students in the area of mathematics at your elementary schools. Hi, my name is Lisa Ande Garcia, and I have been a math coach, a math methods instructor at the local university at BYU, and a math resource pullout, and I have authored 4 books, and that's what I'm going to show you today. First book is Elementary Mathematics is Anything But Elementary. This was a teacher textbook, a college textbook, but we wrote it for K-12 teachers. We had a huge, horrible experience with our publishing company, so we've never had it displayed at NCTM because the Cengage bought out the college division of Houghton Mifflin, and it just never saw the light of day at a conference. But it is a great book. How it's divided is every chapter has a pedagogy and a content section, and then in the pedagogy section we used examples from that content. So let's say it was like number sense in the pedagogy. I don't even remember what the pedagogy is that we matched with that. We would use all of the examples of number sense in that section. It's very robust. Our competitor was the Vanderbilt book, but we do have a very different flavor to the book, but it is all centered around the notion that the best learning goes from the concrete to abstract thinking. And as you design a lesson and a series of lessons, you go from a develop understanding to a solidify concepts to a practice phase within each lesson and throughout a unit. So that is kind of what the whole premise of the book is centered around. My next book is Movement Makes Math Meaningful. This was a result because I was wondering how to make mathematics more kinesthetic for my inner city learners, but I left the classroom way before I kind of answered that question. I came up with a couple activities, but my turning point was when I was on a trip with other professors in a very rural school in Guatemala. The lead professor just taped a 100 grid thing on the floor, and all the students were solving problems together, and that I knew right then that's exactly what I was looking for. And from there I was able to create a bunch of lessons that I put in this book. Now, as I was thinking about the lessons and figuring out what I wanted to write in the book, I at the same time started doing research on why movement was important for learning and brain development, and if it was, and if it even mattered. So when I did that, I ran into things like Brain Gym and primitive reflexes and interactive metronome and all these educational technologies, and that's when I started my whole trajectory on learning about brain development. So what I did was I wrote a whole paper on that, and I basically cut it apart, and I threaded the brain development information throughout this book. So there's these little boxes or captions. They're either called, like, one, the did you know has to do about brain development, and then there's like a teacher insight that has to do with maybe what they would find for that particular lesson, and there's like to make it memorable, which talks more about memory in general. So I kind of threaded those gems throughout the book. So this is a great book if you want to get your students out of the desk, because again, the premise is going from concrete to abstract. You need to work with gross motor before you can work with fine motor. That's a principle in occupational therapy. And a lot of the kids that I was working with and pulling out, they're right brain learners, especially the boys are very kinesthetic sports. They need to experience things through their bodies. The next book that I wrote after that was this 2-digit addition and subtraction. It was a I spent a whole unit in a second grade teacher's class, and I just took over her class and I taught this unit, and I recorded every lesson, and it was the easiest book for me to write because literally I just wrote what was the lesson, and then I would write an excerpt from the classroom, usually with student. Here's some I just took pictures of what the students did and just talked about what happened. But in the beginning is a map of here's a map of the unit. Here's the develop lessons, the solidify lessons, and the practice lessons. And then here I wrote it out this way so you have a different glance. And the book starts out with all the rationale and the understanding, and understanding about the Lesh model of the different forms of representation, the iceberg model, from just different some really good theory from different people in mathematics. And then I was a resource teacher. This is the last book I wrote because it was a result of the work that I was doing. It's called A Qualitative and Quantitative Developmental Math Assessment and Intervention Protocol. And that's exactly what this is. I created my own assessment. I pulled it from different places. So some assessments, they come from, different people. But what I found was that every student, so what I did is I tabbed each assessment, and I made these different colors. The yellow is the worksheets I'll show you in a minute. The blue, the green are the assessments I give every student, no matter if they're 5 or 12. The pink are for the assessments if they don't yet have understanding of place value, and the blue is if they already have established understanding of place value. So the pink is usually K2, and the blue is usually about 3 through 6th grade. But everybody, I would assess these. The yellow section has many different recording forms, but it starts out with understanding what are the 6 developmental phases. Here's 3, and the other 3 are on the back. Okay, and then we have, this is the individualized recording sheet for all the assessments. So you just fill out the parts that you're giving. Here is a summary sheet. This is what I would fill out. I would give it to the teacher, put it in the student's their report card. And this is a recording form for the entire class, so you can mark all the different skills, and here's all the different phases, and you can see which mathematical phase they're in. So when you're grouping them, putting them in small groups, or maybe doing RTI or something, you're able to appropriately group your students. And if you use a different color for every time you do the assessment, like every quarter or semester, then you can see the growth from one to the other. Behind each assessment, so in the assessment, there's the instructions on how to give it and the activities that you would give if you wanted to help build a deeper understanding and experience around that assessment to help them to be able to move up to the next phase. This book also comes with an online, well, it doesn't come with an online tutorial. I created an online tutorial. Each assessment has 3 or 4 student interviews, so you can see like a younger student answering the question or an older student, and so there's a whole tutorial to doing this entire book. So every single one of these assessments has about 3 to 4 different different videos. Any of these books are available on Amazon. You just look me up. This book, because it was published with the publishing company, is owned by them. If the book is purchased new, we do earn money from that. If the book is purchased used, which now most of the books are purchased used, then we don't, just as a heads up. But but they're way cheaper and way more affordable. And by the way, I can only afford it if I buy it used myself. So I understand. My assessment, also I have a kit that you could buy separately for it. If you're in the classroom teacher, you may not need it, but if let's say you're a homeschool mom, or I don't know, you're in a different or maybe you're mobile and you just don't want to pull materials, but it has like the color tiles that you need. It has a little set of base 10 blocks. And I just made a photocopy on cardstock of all the different, this is the fraction task cards that are in there, addition and subtraction task cards, multiplication task cards, the read, compare, and rounding task cards. So I just printed them. They're all in the book, so you don't have to have them. There's also these dot cards, a set of 10 frames. So a lot of you, if you're already teaching, you might already have that. I have a few kits left that otherwise I will have to make more, but I just have them available in case somebody just wants it out of convenience. Anyway, so these are the resources that I have. I also have others on a website. I can put the link below there. I wrote an action research paper when my 23-year-old autistic son was in 5th grade, and I was trying to teach him division, but he had no language comprehension, very, very little. He had some, but very little. There's some other little things that I developed that are on there. But if you have any questions, want any support, if you would like to train your, teachers on something on this one, or maybe this movement makes math meaningful, and you want extra training for brain development, brain gym, movement-based learning, or whatever, just send me a private message and let me know what your needs are, and I will be happy to figure out a way to serve you and your community.